This is an article that came out in the Spokesman Review, and it's dated Sunday, January 28th, 2018. The flu can kill tens of millions of people. In 1918, that's exactly what happened. And some of you might have heard of this particular flu strain. It was called the Spanish flu. And it wiped out so many people to the point where folks had to be placed in mass graves. The coffin makers could not even keep up with the deaths. It was so many. And this is just showing you under a microscope what that strain of flu looked like back in 1918. And here we are in 2018, and we are seeing probably the worst flu epidemic that in 100 years. Do I believe in coincidence? No, I don't believe this is a coincidence at all. Exactly 100 years later, now we're looking at another epidemic, and it's worldwide, really a pandemic at this point. The flu arrived as a great war raged in Europe, a conflict that would leave about 20 million people dead over 4 years just from the Spanish flu. So, in 15 months, that's exactly what happened worldwide. So, it's believed that 50 to 100 million people died from this flu over a 10-week period in the fall of 1918. And here in the United States, it took the lives of 675,000 people in a year. And that was the same amount of people that died from AIDS over a 40-year period. The Center for Disease Control, they said this strain of influenza that went around in 1918 was a pandemic, and it was named the Spanish flu. Okay. And the disease spread so widely in America, the streets in the country became a standstill. Everybody was afraid to go out. Churches closed. They had pool halls back then, theaters, they were closed. People were afraid. Coffin makers couldn't keep up with the demand, so mass graves were dug to bury the dead. People cowering behind closed doors for fear they would be struck down. In Philadelphia, where I grew up, news stories describe priests driving carts through the streets, encouraging people to bring out the dead so they might be buried. So they were just being picked up by priests, I guess, with carts with horses and thrown into mass graves. Um, and it's saying here in New York alone, in 10 weeks, 20,000 died and produced 31,000 orphans. In November of 1918, 50,000 died in South Africa, where at its peak of the flu killed 600 a day. In Egypt, the death count reached 41,000 in Cairo and Alexandria by January. In Tahiti, trucks roamed the streets, and that's not really a big place. And it looks like they burnt and incinerate the bodies that had the influenza and they died. And of course, they're saying a lot of things that they said today, the infants and the very young. Immune systems are not really that strong, haven't had a chance to even build up yet. And of course, the elderly lose their ability to fight, because of their age. And I did a story actually on how the baby boomers are being hit exceptionally hard. Many died within hours, turning blue from a lack of oxygen as they coughed foamy blood from their lungs and bled from their nose, ears, and eyes. The Spanish flu infected the upper respiratory tract and then dove deep into the lungs with viral or bacteria pneumonia. How did it kill so many young, healthy adults? Their immune systems attacked the influenza invader with such a force that it killed them. So they got hit exceptionally hard from the Spanish flu. Wow. So I just don't believe that this is coming out of the blue, that it's 100 years later. Now, we know there were no flu vaccines, but look, today, all of the people that got the vaccines are the ones being hit the hardest. And like I said, I heard someone when I was driving in the car saying, oh, it's the people that have already had conditions, medical conditions dying. That's not true. A lot of people and children that are dying did not have any pre existing conditions. So that's not true, and I have to agree that perhaps there's something about the flu shot that people got last year and this year that weakened their immune system. And that's why it's spreading. And they said this H3N2, you can just be in the room breathing and someone got it and you can get it. It's very highly contagious. Very contagious. I was just out today in the pharmacy, getting a few things, and I was really concerned. You don't know who's been in there before you or been touching the same items that you're touching on the shelf. You have to think about things like that. And that's why it's really important, especially if you've gone shopping or been out in the public, when you get home, wash your hands. Wash your hands. All right, so the CDC is saying they're always concerned about an influenza pandemic that kills so many people and one that spreads so easily. So they're, noticing that. But I don't think this is a coincidence. I think these people are very predictable. They have used germ warfare on the public many times before. And perhaps, and I really believe it's being used again. Um, this is what happens when you're in a world with so many wicked people. And you hear all this talk of depopulation. And ladies and gentlemen, they want to depopulate this planet just so they can have more of the resources for themselves. It's for very selfish reasons. Okay? This is why when they talk like that, you should never go along with no depopulation program. So the same greedy group of people that hog up all the resources can hog up even more. And they got the audacity to think there's something wrong with you if you don't agree with it. And I don't agree. I think their motives are evil as usual. And no, if anybody should be depopulated from the planet, it should be the people that think up these evil plans. They're the ones they're the main ones that should be off of this planet. They shouldn't be allowed to be here anymore. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice. Also, join me over on Black Junction TV and blackspot.com. Peace, family.